Dr. Ruben Echeverria, agricultural science leader. Welcome to the JSO interview.
Thank you very much for the invitation. A pleasure to be back in Kenya.
You are the Director General of an institution called the International Center for Tropical Agriculture, better known by its Spanish acronym CIAT. Would you tell us why you are back in Kenya on this particular occasion?
Sure, I'm very happy to be back. In fact, John, I started my career here in working with the Kenyan Agricultural Research Institute in Kakamega, if you can imagine, 1988.
So you are in fact Kenyan?
No, I'm not Kenyan. I'm from Uruguay, but I love to be back in Kenya, working with trying to help the Kenyan government, the universities, the research institutes to work together facing this big challenge of food security. So we've been...
Yeah, tell us more about CIAT in particular, the institution which you head as Director General. What are you up to and why?
Well, we are public. We work on public issues like poverty, hunger, food security, climate change. So CIAT is really focusing on improving, crafting the crops for the future generation, producing those beans and rice varieties and grasses and cassava for the future. Because the future looks like we are going to be 9 billion people. The agricultural land is shrinking, climate is changing, so we have a good challenge ahead. So CIAT is focusing on how to make sure that there will be less poor people and they will be better fed.
Isn't the understanding that in Colombia, where you work, there is this idea of a gene bank? Could you explain in your own words what a gene bank is?
Well, it's very easy. It's like imagine your refrigerator at home, but having a cooler temperature, about -20 centigrade. So what we do, we collect biodiversity around the world, meaning seeds from different crops, very important crops that people eat, that we all need to eat. And we keep them in this refrigerator for a long time, so we can use them for research whenever they are needed. Many international centers, including here in Kenya, have that system. So
can the individual, can I sort of say I'd really like a seed to grow some exotic plant from China? Can I come to you and buy one?
Yes, so we had plenty of requests. We keep those seeds, not for us, we keep those seeds for humanity. So we give away these seeds when people ask for it. For instance, the beans that I'm sure you have eaten right here in Kenya are coming from Latin America, and we have a huge refrigerator with all of these bean varieties. There are many different varieties of seeds. They taste different, so we need to keep them well kept so we can do research on them and improve varieties, so we are sure that we'll have something on the table in the future.
I'm interested in your experience, which is very wide-ranging over many, many years, and the African continent in particular, the continent of war in the public imagination, of poverty, of disaster. And you're saying that there is a great challenge to the food security of the world. What is your continental outlook? Pessimistic? Are we all going to die of hunger in the next 10 years?
To the contrary. I think we went through the worst, and now we're looking forward. And the way forward is to invest a little more into applied technologies, new varieties of crops, new infrastructure, new policies that will allow us to produce more seeds, better seeds, to have the extension services that they can really connect to farmers in their own languages. So my outlook, if I had to look into the future, is that Africa is growing very fast. The private sector is coming back. There are new government policies, such as in the new government in Kenya, to rethink what can we do in agriculture and how we can do it better. The trick is how you connect all of these big elements into something that is doable in a short time. And research takes time, so we need to be a little patient. But I can see a very, very sound future. A lot of things to do yet.
There's a cultural element to all this. You talked about Kakamega being in Kenya as a young man. Now, culturally, people tend to feel that this kind of bean is our bean because of our ethnic grouping. So there seems to be an education because, you know, people from Kisii will say, we Kisiis eat this kind of bean. They might not remember that it originally came from Latin America. So how do you encourage people to eat across tradition and culture?
Well, that's an excellent point, because as people change over time, crops, beans also change over time. They're not the same that they were brought from Latin America. That's exactly why you need to keep funding research to do this maintenance, very important work.
Sorry, but I'm not going to eat your bean. You can research away as much as you like.
Oh, I thought you really like my beans.
No, because that's not the bean my people eat.
Okay, so
that's more the subtext there.
Perfect. So
change of behavior, change of eating habits, eating better, eating more healthfully.
So the beans have been adapted to local taste. They have been produced in Kenya, so they are not Latin American beans. They were originally, they are coming from that part of the world, like tomatoes or like cassava and other crops, but they were adapted over 20, 30, 40 years for the local taste, for the local growing conditions. We are producing, for example, new varieties which will be drought tolerant. So people complain, well, Kenya only has 20% of arable land. Well, Israel has much less. And China has almost the same arable land in percentage as Kenya. So what we're saying is that you can irrigate a little better, you can produce varieties that they can adapt to drought. And that's possible through good science.
Right. I'm also going to take you on a line of thinking about being a Latin American, to sort of coin a phrase. What is your experience and what lessons are there to be learnt on the African continent? What have you done right that we've done wrong, if you see what I'm saying?
Yes. I'm very happy they are not going to talk about football today, being from Latin America.
Right.
So we do have very good lessons from Latin America. We did a lot of things wrong, and that's also very helpful for Africa, because we can compare notes. We can say, well, we did that already, it didn't work that well. Good things that Latin American governments have done and the private sector is to invest in the infrastructure, in the education in rural areas, nutrition, and also into technologies, new research, and really have an open dialogue on the policies.
To an extent that comparatively we in Kenya, for example, haven't done.
Well, I'm sure you have done.
To suggest that maybe we don't do research, that we don't educate, that we don't.
To the contrary, Kenya has done a great job. What we're saying is that if you look a little about what the experiences are in Latin America, Kenya has a very strong base to grow into this new way forward into agriculture, because you do have identified the key priorities for success. And in Latin America, it has taken us 50 years of discussion. We are always discussing and never agreeing among themselves. And I see here much more consensus these days in Kenya compared to when I came in '88, or that we need to build infrastructure, that we need to support the Kenyan Agricultural Research Institute, that the international centers, like the one I'm working for, connect and complement with NGOs, with civil society, that we need to improve food security, meaning better nutrition. Beans can have more iron and zinc. These are little micronutrients that can help a lot children learn better in schools. So all of that is much better. I see key priorities here that most people agree with these priorities. Agriculture, I mean, Kenya is based on agriculture, so I think if agriculture does well, Kenya will do well.
Well, we're going to move on to our new government and its manifesto on agriculture. But before we go there, you are the Director General of an international organization. And if I were to ask you, what is your contribution? How have you made my life better? What would you say to that?
Well, we are really proud by having a very strong partnership with Kenyans. So we have done a lot of research in most of the beans that Kenyans eat are related to this type of research. Beans are very important. For example, the famous climbing bean. Beans sometimes fight a little with maize. I don't know if you're a farmer, but farmers put maize and beans together, right? And we eat them together, maize and beans. Well, beans to fight against maize, they do a little what we call climbing beans. So these new bean varieties yield more kilos per hectare of beans. They have better nutrition. They are drought tolerant. So we have huge impact. We have had, not alone, with Kenyan partners, on food security and nutrition through these new bean varieties. That's a major impact which is very well documented.